Follow me on Twitter, you cowards. Link in description.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So Zack Snyder's Justice League came out a little while ago, and so today I thought to myself, well, this was supposed to be the start of a trilogy. I wonder what those sequels would look like. Now, we do know roughly what would have happened in these sequels because recently, storyboards for the sequels have come out. However, these storyboards are a bit outdated, and apparently Zack Snyder still has a more recent set of storyboards incorporating later ideas and changed plans. While this video isn't really taking all about what those plans were, I am going to incorporate some of those ideas. Essentially, my goal here is to pitch what I would do with Justice League 2, while also incorporating some ideas from those storyboards, the implied plot points of the later version, and also a few other little things that I've picked up from the fandom. But while a lot of the general ideas of this is from the storyboards, a lot of this is my own stuff. So let me preface this by talking about the character dynamic of the movie. So in my mind, this movie is basically in a world where the Snyder Cut as we know it was released theatrically in 2017, and we're going from there. So this movie focuses mainly on Batman, Superman, and Martian Manhunter. And here's why. So at this point in the franchise, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are being focused on in their own franchises. The Flash was developed a little in the last movie, and a solo movie is at least on the way, and Cyborg has a movie in the works, though even if he doesn't, he had a huge arc in the first movie. So, Superman and Batman solo movies either aren't happening, or are happening after Justice League movies are done. Alright, so here's the pitch. We open on O, the planet of the Green Lantern Corps, where Sinestro is talking with the Guardians of the Universe. A couple weeks ago, the New Gods attempted to invade Earth from their universe, take the anti-life equation, and use it to conquer our universe. This is a good way to inform anyone that didn't see the first movie who Darkseid is and what the anti-life equation is. Despite Abin Sur advising against it, the Guardians agree to use the power of the Green Lantern battery to send Sinestro transdimensionally to Apokolips as a recon mission to discover Darkseid's plans, and then they can go about it as a Corps. So Sinestro is sent through, but in his scout mission he is captured by Darkseid. Something I didn't really like about the Justice League storyboards is that in them Darkseid isn't really a villain, he's a force of destruction. He doesn't really have his own plans or strategies. Maybe this was fixed in later versions, but either way, what I want to accomplish in this is to make Darkseid more of a war strategist, because that's who he is. We know he encountered the Green Lantern Corps in his initial invasion thousands of years ago, so he was actually counting on the Green Lanterns coming to Apokolips as his way out after the mother boxes, his ties to our universe, were destroyed in the previous movie. He sort of explains to Desaad that when a Green Lantern dies, their ring searches for a new lantern. Of course, there's no one worthy of being a Green Lantern in a place like Apokolips, so they kill Sinestro and follow his power ring as it punches a hole in the fabric of reality, and Darkseid's army travels into our universe, intent on finding Earth and using the anti-life equation to conquer the universe. And then, the title card. I guess it can't just be called Justice League 2, so let's just call it Justice League Age of Apokolips. So, after the titles, we open in Metropolis. Superman is flying around saving the day. This is where we see comic book Superman. I think opening with him catching a car, recreating the cover of Action Comics #1 would be a nice touch. Also, he's in the red and blue suit. I don't really like the whole black suit thing, and this is my video, so in this version he doesn't have it. Maybe there could be a reference to him no longer wearing it later. Maybe he wore it to absorb more sunlight for the battle with Steppenwolf, but no longer needs it. He's flying around, saving people, and eventually everything stops as we see a teenage girl standing on the edge of a skyscraper. The police are underneath, trying to get her to come down as Superman flies in. The police are relieved Superman is there to fly up and bring the girl down. But that's not what Superman's going to do. He flies up and talks to her. He calmly tells her that she means more than she thinks, and that there are people that love her. I don't really have time to explain the scene beat by beat, but the gist is that Superman talks this girl into walking away from the edge on her own. This is where we know that this is Superman. So, Superman goes home and becomes Clark Kent. We get some dialogue between him and Lois where clearly they're happy to be together again, but something's just a little bit off. Lois is hiding something from Clark. But before they can resolve it, Clark hears someone crying out for help. He hesitates because he wants to resolve things with Lois, but he has to go up to help. He soars into the sky and sees a plane crashing. He tries to save it, but because of his hesitation, he's just a little bit too late. He can't save them. But then, right at the last second, Martian Manhunter catches the plane and lands it. This is the world's first look at Martian Manhunter. And of course, Superman has no idea who this guy is before he flies off. This is our opportunity to see what the rest of the League is up to. We see a series of scenes showing where each League member is now, each scene ending with news of Martian Manhunter's first save. We start with Cyborg and Flash at Star Labs working with Ryan Choi. Since the last movie, Vic and Ryan have been really trying to dissect Barry's powers, and his ability to go back in time in particular. So they're building a device that can harness the Flash's Speed Force energy and focus it to control his time travel. And what better device to harness this than a treadmill? So that's what they're making. Since Barry's apparently the weird quirky one that is there so that we can use comic names that don't sound realistic, maybe he offhandedly refers to it as a cosmic treadmill. But while Barry is sorting through various bits and bobs at Star Labs, he finds a glowing white orb in a box. Ryan explains that this is a piece of a white dwarf star that was studied by his mentor Ray Palmer for years before he passed away, and he thinks it has major potential as a power source on a project he's working on. Suddenly, the TV in the background reports on a green Superman flying through Metropolis and catching a plane. Cut to the Louvre in Paris. Diana is meeting with Helen Gardner, a historian of Greek culture. Diana gives her the arrow that the Amazons shot in the last movie, and asks her to figure out its origin geographically. Obviously, throughout this scene, Diana is trying not to give away that she's an Amazon, while also trying to get as much information as possible about where Themyscira may be. Helen examines the arrow and says that it's the arrow of Artemis, and old Greek legends say it could go great distances. It must be some kind of replica from the legends. Diana mentions it was found at the Temple of Amazons, and Helen responds that it makes sense, considering the Amazons were known to worship Artemis. In legend at least. But clearly it's some kind of relic, being easily thousands of years old. And then Diana says it was first found a few weeks ago. Helen is picking up on the implication that Diana is saying, so Diana essentially asks her to determine the distance the arrow travels when shot from a traditional bow, and then determine an area in the Mediterranean that it could have come from. Helen asks Diana if she thinks things like an island of Amazons could actually exist. Diana says there are stranger things out there. Just then, news of Martian Manhunter comes on the TV we saw in the Louvre in the first film that gave the news that the arrow had arrived at the temple. We cut to Gotham. I'd really like to see what Bruce Wayne's like in this universe as the owner of a ginormous company. We saw a little bit of that in Batman v Superman, but I'd like to see a little bit more of the benevolent millionaire. I'm sure there are tons of people in Gotham who still see Batman as a scary vigilante that hurts people. Heck, there's probably a good share of people in Gotham, especially in the poorer neighborhoods, that see the Joker as more of a good guy than Batman. So I'd like to see Bruce Wayne essentially talking to the mayor of Gotham about some kind of relief program. In the middle of their conversation, everyone looks out the window to see across the bay a green man floating in the air. Bruce ducks away and calls Alfred. He's here. The one I told you about. The one that wants to help. We cut back to Metropolis, but it's a few minutes earlier and at Metropolis Harbor. Black Manta is trying to dive underneath the harbor into the sewers of Metropolis, and as he descends into the pipes, Aquaman shows up to fight. Arthur asks him why he isn't dead, and Manta responds by asking why he isn't at the throne right now. Touché. The two fight, and essentially Arthur gets enough of an upper hand to throw Black Manta up to the surface through a manhole. Arthur comes to the surface to continue the fight, but it's de-escalated. Now all that's happening is that a crowd of people, Manta included, look up into the sky. Arthur looks up and sees Martian Manhunter in the air holding a plane. Black Manta talks into a comm, saying, "You gotta see this, boss." We cut to Lex Luthor on a boat in the Arctic. He replies that he knows what's going on, but it's gonna have to wait. He tells Manta to retreat before talking to his other subordinate, Deathstroke, who's in a much more pleasant environment in the jungles of Brazil. Deathstroke asks Lex why he's not in Metropolis. He could do a better job than Manta. Lex replies that Deathstroke is much more suited for chopping through vines than swimming through sewers, but also that if Deathstroke's too close to Batman, Lex risks him going rogue to kill him. Deathstroke has a debt to pay Lex for revealing Batman's identity. As Deathstroke makes his way through the jungle, he slashes at vines until he arrives at a swamp. He tells Lex Luthor that he has arrived. We pan out to see what is pretty much a realistic version of the Hall of Doom, the hideout of the Legion of Doom. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, the League has assembled, and they're already low on chairs. So, most of the members are there so that they can discuss what's going on with Martian Manhunter. None of them know who he is or where he comes from, but this is when Bruce stands up and introduces him, and explains that he already knows this guy. He came to meet him not long after the fight with Steppenwolf. Martian Manhunter then transforms into General Swanwick. Obviously, everyone is surprised, especially Superman. This is when we get an exposition dump about Swanwick's past. I'm changing it a little bit from the comics, but the basics are there. Swanwick was once J'onn J'onzz, citizen of Mars. However, decades ago, Mars was invaded by Steppenwolf in his pursuit for the anti-life equation. J'onn was able to escape to Earth. As far as he knows, he's the last Martian. He landed on Earth in the 70s and since then has used his shapeshifting to take on many different identities. His most recent one has been Calvin Swanwick. He hid himself for years out of fear of not being accepted, which was only heightened when everyone was afraid of Superman. He was also scared of word getting to Steppenwolf that he was still alive. Now that Steppenwolf is gone and people are beginning to accept superheroes since Superman's return, he has decided to come out of hiding. He tells the League that he plans to hold a press conference as General Swanwick in a few days. By then, hopefully, the public will be on the side of Martian Manhunter, and at the press conference, he will reveal himself. While there is some argument throughout the League about whether or not it's a good idea, it's ultimately J'onn's decision, so if he wants to do it, he can. It's after the Martian Manhunter debacle is sorted that Arthur brings up that he saw Black Manta moving into Metropolis through the sewers. He's worried that now that Steppenwolf's gone, there might be new challenges the League has to face. Back in Brazil, we see Deathstroke enter the swamp hideout, and inside we see Isabel Maru, aka Dr. Poison from Wonder Woman. She's very old, but over time she has used cybernetics and medicine of her own creation to enhance her lifespan. Deathstroke offers her a chance at revenge against Wonder Woman for ruining her future all those years ago. A smile spreads across her face. Or at least, half of one does.